Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Crypto Charge, where we're here to supercharge your gains and supercharge your crypto portfolio. Now, today is an unbelievable day in the simple fact that we are yet feeling uncertainty in the markets. So many times, just when it feels like we're about ready to break to all-time highs, we see some more FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, for those of you that aren't familiar with the crypto term, eke its way into the markets. And though we know that over the weekends are typically a very volatile time because it's thin trading, given the CME markets are closed, we've once again rolled into another week of, are we going up or are we going down? And I think the consensus is it really depends on what the next 3 or 4 days is going to show. Can we really maintain and hold the $44,000 level, or are we going to lose that level and retest some of the lows? And my good friend Dan will be getting into that here a little bit later in the show. Now, as one of the things I really want to focus and kind of use this as a moment to teach you guys is there's so many projects out there. And I feel like there's many times we don't know what projects are great projects, what does what. And there's so much uncertainty about, is everything trying to be Bitcoin? Is everything trying to be a smart contract play? What's the difference between Cardano and Polkadot and Ethereum? And today I'm going to just spend a few minutes talking about one of my personal favorite projects. And that's the Polkadot Kusama ecosystem. So one of the things you have to understand that's really limited the full adoptability of the crypto market and decentralized ledger technology in general is the lack of communication between chains. What that basically means is individuals that are transacting on the Bitcoin network are not able to communicate with those that are communicating on the Ethereum network. And so what ends up happening is the right hand and the left hand don't know what each other's doing because they're typically operating in completely different types of markets or different types of projects, meaning a Bitcoin is usually a play on a store of value, whereas Ethereum is typically a smart contract play, and usually whether it's an NFT play, a DeFi, or just another of other types of smart contracts out there. Now, what Polkadot does and what it aims to do, and it's been founded by Gavin, one of the original 5 founders of Ethereum, is to actually begin to let the right hand and the left hand know what each other's doing in certain manners where it makes sense. And this is what the Polkadot relay chain and parachains allow for, is they are to provide communications of cross-chain, where basically projects that are currently acting on Ethereum can very easily communicate with other projects that are acting on Bitcoin or Litecoin or a number of other programs out there. And this is a huge advancement. And where so many people are trying to say we're the best or they're the best, Gavin Wood is brilliant and said, you know what? I don't know who's the best, but guess what? I'm going to be Switzerland, and I'm going to make sure that you guys all have an open line of communication with each other in a decentralized manner. And not only did he understand that so many times when we have to actually launch something on a particular project that we run into certain issues, he said, well, why don't we actually build a full entire blockchain as a test network that we can then make sure that when we upload our projects on it, that they can run in full scalability in a profitable environment, and then they can actually board the Polkadot ecosystem if they choose to do so. And this is the relationship between Kusama and Polkadot. Everything before it goes on to Polkadot actually launches on the Kusama blockchain. And what it does is, think of it, it's like the minor leagues, but doesn't mean that minor league baseball players aren't great baseball players. Maybe they just haven't made it to the big leagues yet because they got to spend their dues in the minors. And that's exactly what Kusama does, is Kusama brings about projects onto their ecosystem and allows them to really perfect and test in a real life environment exactly what they want to do before they can then go ahead and be aborted on the Polkadot network. And for those of you guys that aren't super familiar with crypto, what you will soon learn is there is a ton of individuals that overpromise and underdeliver. And one of the amazing things that Polkadot has come, and why I truly believe that Polkadot will be one of the most revered and respected ecosystems in all of crypto, is because of what they have done as what's called a parachain slot auction. So think of it very simply put as this. How much more do we know on a 53-man roster in the NFL that each individual player has a certain level of skill set compared to if it was a 200-man roster? Reason why is because we know that there's more individuals competing for fewer spots. And therefore, by a 53-man roster, we know that these guys typically are only number 2 or number 3 in their position versus number 10 in the position. And this is what Polkadot has decided to do. They said, rather than just letting everybody launch onto our ecosystem, we're going to first make them launch on Kusama. And then just to even be able to launch on Kusama, we're going to do something called a parachain slot auction. Basically, what they have to do is a form of crowdfunding. These individuals or projects that want to launch have to say, you know what? If I'm going to launch, I've got to win one of these slots to just be able to operate. I got to basically lease space on the blockchain to be able to operate. And in order to lease that space, I got to fight out a bunch of other projects out there. It's just like a shopping mall, right? If we know it's a dilapidated mall in Ohio, the space for people to lease is not nearly as desirable as it is in Newport Coast, where there's 7 prime locations with waterfront views of a particular restaurant, or we know something like Louis Vuitton is going to win. And this is exactly what Kusama and Polkadot have done. And so in order to be able to rent or lease for 48 weeks one of these spaces, they have got to win the auction. And in order to win the auction, they got to be the highest bidder. And now these individuals aren't just having overflowing sums of money coming from their pockets. They're like any startup. So what they do is they do something basically very similar to a crowd loan or crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending. Very simple, like we would all like to have gotten in on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at launch, but unfortunately, we weren't Ashton Kutcher that knew every hedge fund billionaire on the planet that we could easily find our way into those meetings. However, this is where crypto gives us the power. We can now, through something, which Gavin, if you'll pull my screen up here for you, on something called KuCoin. And one of the amazing things and why I'm a big fan specifically on KuCoin is KuCoin doesn't just try to be another exchange. They actually try to bring the most ways to earn passive income through staking, liquidity pools, and now Kusama parachain slot auctions. So what this gives you the ability to do very easily and simply, as an individual like myself who owns a good amount of Kusama, what I can do is I can simply go and click on the ecosystem and see what projects are currently trying to bid to win one of these parachain slot auctions. And what happens is I have the ability to, in essence, lend out my Kusama tokens to, let's say, Altair in this case. And they, if they win the parachain slot auction, if they win the space on the Kusama blockchain, they will reward 50,000 AIR tokens for free for any individual that lease them or let them basically hold on to their Kusama to help them win that space. Basically, it's a way that they are raising money so that they have enough Kusama to win that space. And if they do win, they're going to let you share in the profitability of it by giving you free tokens as much as a ton of other reward options out there. Now, I'm going to go into this in much greater detail on our actual paid site, but I wanted to just show you guys that one of the amazing things that we're going to continue to teach you guys is not just to buy what coin or how what coin works, but rather how to take those coins and very simply and easily find the very best ways to safely, securely turn those investments into passive income. And so if you yourself are not a holder of DOT or Kusama, I would really suggest looking into some of those projects because we all know it's really nice to be Switzerland in the world. And there's a reason why international banking stems out of Switzerland, because they remain neutral and become everybody's friend. And that's exactly what Kusama and Polkadot are. So to get into some more details about exactly what's happening into the crypto market, let's move right over to my good buddy Dan, and he can be telling us what's going on chain.
Hey guys, so it's been a volatile week. We've seen the price action go from a local high of around 53,000 down to just under 43,000. And there's been some crazy news stories that were actually released earlier today specific to Litecoin. And this really shook up the markets and just added to the volatility. But there was some rumors out there that Litecoin had partnered with Walmart, and it was actually picked up by some major media outlets like CNBC and Bloomberg, and they've since taken them down. But if you take a look at the charts of Litecoin, things shot up rocket high and then came all the way back down once it was reported that they were not true. So a lot of volatility. But when we take a look at some of the on-chain analysis for Bitcoin specifically, it still looks really healthy. And I think it's just important to note that when we're talking about on-chain analytics, this is more for the longer term. This is not some type of information that you're going to utilize and day trade with. It's going to take time, but it shows you what the investor sentiment is and what really the makeup is of holders out there and what types of coins are being spent. But you're not going to immediately see a reaction in the markets because of this, but it certainly can help to build your thesis in confluence with other things out there for where you think price may go. And it's not always positive either, but the things that have been happening and developing would point to some bullish price action in the future. And what we're seeing is a lot of accumulation from long-term holders. And I just want to share my chart real quick, Gavin. And you can see here that this shows you a chart of dormancy. So essentially, the yellow line here is showing you what the average age is, so how old the coin is that's being spent. And you can see here that we are at very, very low levels currently. And one of the things of note to really show that people are still holding through some of this volatility that we saw over this past week is that it didn't spike up even when we saw that drop off, that pretty sharp drop in a quick period of time from, let's say, 53 down to under 43. You can see it actually went down. So the people that are holding in here seem to have a lot of conviction, and you're not seeing those older coins being spent. And by the way, when we're looking at this, we're actually right around the levels we were at the 2020 pre-bull market level. So, it does point to the fact that when we look at some of these other ones, it could point to higher prices in the coming weeks to months. When we take a look at the revived supply last active 1+ years, so basically showing you if any of the longer term coins are being spent, it's a similar story. You can see here that we're at extremely low levels, even with this price volatility here. And when we take a look at the actual accumulation, we are at really, really high levels, and we're seeing supply squeezes. And the last several times that we've seen supply squeezes, we've seen price really start to take off following that. And if you take a look at what supply is held by long-term holders, and you actually adjust it for lost coins, you're talking about the high 80s as far as those long-term holders holding coins. So it speaks to those individuals being less likely to sell and holding throughout this volatility that we've seen. And I think it does paint a bullish picture. Again, not in the days. I think the next couple of days can certainly be volatile and even weeks, but I think in the future, let's say the next few months, we could certainly see potentially some new all-time highs set. Now, I just want to show you the charts real quick because we are at some very critical levels. We obviously came up and we set the local high around 53,000, and we've seen a sharp sell-off. And this coincided with some of the red flags that we saw out there. The Bitcoin day with El Salvador, where retail was trying to get pushed to really kind of in solidarity buy Bitcoin, and it smelled a little funny. Well, sure enough, we saw a big sell-off that day, but we didn't see it recover yet. We've really been kind of trading in this range, and we've been testing the 44,000 level several times. And this is a key zone. You can see this box that I drew in here. This is really a key level to maintain. We've dipped beneath it a few times, but we've smartly come back above it. But if we lose that level, I do think that, unfortunately, we're going to go down towards the 41,000 to 40,000 range. Now, just to put some things in perspective, right? Let's just zoom out on the chart a little bit. We have been, since really towards the end of July 19th, July 20th, in a really aggressive move up higher. So this is not an unhealthy correction by any means. Nothing is ever going to go straight up. However, you can see we had a nice retrace, and we've actually got ourselves from a momentum standpoint from the overbought area, which you can see you can remain in for extended periods, but we were here for a long period of time. And now we've quickly gotten, with the recent move over the last week, pretty close to oversold territory. And when you look at the MACD, which is another momentum indicator, you can see seller exhaustion here because you can see these red bars in the histogram starting to get a little bit smaller. So again, this may not happen tomorrow, but it is showing you that things are setting up for a potential reversal. Remember that you could remain in these levels for extended periods, just like we were up here, but at least we're not in overbought territory here anymore. And I just want to show you this if we zoom out on the chart even further. Take a look at the more recent bull run that we saw, late 2020 over here, and just take a look at the pattern that you see. If you take a look, and we just use this this tool here, this ghost bar tool, take a look at this run up that we saw here all the way up to here. It wasn't a straight line up. You saw a sizable over 20% retraces on the way up. And if you just kind of take this and overlay it, listen, it's not an exact picture, but are we going to see something like this? Are we going to see, we obviously saw the pull up and then the retrace, and are we going to see that continuation to the upside? We'll have to see. But I think that when you take a look at some of these charts, take a look at some of the levels that we're currently holding, and you really couple that with some of the positive stuff that we're seeing from the people that are holding these coins in the on-chain analysis, I think that we really could see, over the next several months, potentially some new all-time highs. So, it's always going to be volatile, and we're going to be here to guide you through it. But I don't see any, real big panic signs here. I'm sure, those of you holding coins are probably wondering what's going on. And listen, it's always going to be volatile in these markets. But as long as we remain above this 44,000, I think we could continue to climb higher. But if it is broken, I don't think we're going to go down and retest the lows, but I think we could test around the 40,000 level. So there could be a little bit more pain if we break beneath that all important 44,000 range.
Now, Dan, question for you. I know that you mentioned that we roughly have about 88 to 89% of all the coins that are currently, in the market or available supply out there that are being held long term. So is the reason that we're seeing a massive price drop, even though the supply that was being put onto the market wasn't coming from those hands, is that due to manipulations in more of like a derivatives market with the futures, or would that just individuals that were selling, newer coins? What can cause that type of a swing if there's still very little supply that's actually coming to the market?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. It's a good question. It's hard to say exactly for sure, but I do think that, we did see a lot of the liquidations come on the derivatives markets. I think there was 4.4 billion or so of liquidations that we saw. And this happens when you see price run up, you see people getting very speculative and going long and getting in high leverage positions and in option type positions. And, you see, some manipulation occurs where, these are, somewhat unregulated markets, and there's some manipulation, I think, that can occur. And, when you see all these individuals that have liquidation points below, I think a lot of times you'll see a tendency to have those liquidation, areas of liquidity tapped to really close out all of those, leveraged positions. And I think it's not necessarily an unhealthy thing either. We want to see this market built up on more of a foundation, I would say, than just speculation.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. Now, I know too, Matt, I know you have a really cool coin that I know I've been personally really interested in this project. Matt, why don't you kind of take us through? I know you've done some unbelievable research on one of your favorite projects. Why don't you kind of walk everybody through it?
Absolutely. I definitely wanted to present this one because there was a poll we put out on Instagram asking what coins did you want to see next. And we're definitely going to cover more in depth as the show goes on, some of those that you guys requested. But one of the requests was what's maybe like a sleeper token or a token that nobody's really talking about that you're really interested in. And that token for me is going to be DAG. So Gavin, if you want to pull up my charts here, my screen here, we're going to go a little bit into what DAG is. So DAG is the Constellation Network. And what DAG does essentially is it moves and validates information. So whereas other blockchains are really focused on moving and settling payments, the DAG network is primarily focused on securing information, although it does offer other types of utility. So we can see here the main thing to note here is that this is a proof of reputable observation, or a PRO. So whereas Ethereum is proof of stake and Bitcoin is proof of work, this is a PRO consensus model. So essentially what that means is that the way that this token gets validated is you have different node operators and people who validate the transactions and ensure the information is good. When there's a conflict and someone senses there's bad information, the node operator with the higher ranking will be the person to decide if that information is valid or not. So it's just slightly different in that sense. And this is actually from Avalanche, which is a completely different project, but they had a great graph here explaining how DAG works. And it's really just this line here where they talk about the ancestors and the descendants, whereas, Bitcoin and Ethereum have a linear chain on every block with one parent and one child, but Avalanche uses DAG to store data rather than on a linear chain. And this is exactly how the Constellation Network does it as well. So we're able to pass information through more pathways instead of having to wait for everything to get loaded into one block and then sent off. So
Does that
exactly what we see
provide for
here.
a faster? Does that provide for a faster consensus, Matt?
Way faster, way cheaper. Overall, just way easier to use. So there is two sides to this project. So there's the Hypercube side, which is basically the retail and business side of it. So people can use this to deploy their own blockchains, mint their own cryptocurrencies, and then just have a lot of really out of the box tools you can use. So there's no coding required. You can do hosted or private builds. A variety of different things. But more importantly, and why I'm so bullish on DAG is the federal involvement. So we have Constellation for Government, securing interoperability, anti-spoofing, data logistics. Like I said, data validation is really the number one thing that DAG is accomplishing here. And they have endorsements from, the Air Force, from a variety of different government sectors here who are saying, hey, we want to use this technology. They have a lot of really fantastic partners here. And one of those partners is Space Isaac, and they do exactly this. They collect data, analyze it for threats, incidents, vulnerabilities, and then they go ahead and give those data reports back to their partner agencies, which is NASA, NSA, all these different services. And they're also partnered with Amazon Web Services. So overall, I'm just incredibly bullish from a fundamental standpoint on DAG because they have so many partnerships outside of just, retail usership. We have a lot of government involvement. So if we quickly look at the chart here for DAG, 1 second.
Yeah, Matt, we've seen DAG come about retrace about 46% from the high that it set a little less than a month ago. What would you say would be a good entry point here?
Absolutely. Honestly, I'm looking to add to my bag, honestly, at market prices here, and then also maybe a limit around 20 cents, just in case things get a little uglier, like we were talking about with the rest of the market. If Bitcoin does decide to tumble over that 44K zone and dip down to 40K, then we could see DAG pull back as well. And I'm definitely targeting as my first short-term target about 63 cents on DAG. So it's definitely a really great trade to be had, and something nice to add to your portfolio, to add to your Bitcoin and Ethereum bags.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, from the DAG perspective, I know a lot of cryptocurrencies seem like they have a lot of trouble with governments because of the fact that they are trying to be a currency or a security, where it seems like DAG is more of used for different types of data validation as well as data integrity. So it doesn't seem like there's any type of conflict of interest in terms of it being a security, rather than I know a lot of some of the DeFi projects that people are worrying about. So would you say that this should be a cryptocurrency as well that you think would be a little bit more government resistant, for lack of a better word?
Absolutely. The partnerships definitely shed away a lot of those concerns. You have to hold DAG directly to use it to validate your own data and whatnot. So there's that direct one-to-one value in pegging there. So there isn't this, dependency on other people to make your network work. You buy and hold as much DAG as you need to accomplish your goals.
Oh, wow. That is huge. And see, it's things like this that we're going to continue as we go ahead, and we're getting very close to being able to be launching our actual platform. And as many of you guys, we haven't really talked about it too much. I'm going to give you guys kind of just a little teaser about it here. Is one of the big things that we have been very diligently working with our entire team is to basically kind of bring about a place where we can bring to you guys data integrity in regarding the cryptocurrency market, making sure that we're bringing you real market data, real, coins and projects that have true, real utility in the space, and not just be a YouTube channel that's going to come on here and basically promote a coin to basically pump and dump it. And not only mention that, I'll wrap it up by going ahead and kind of leading into my dear friend Dan, who is obviously runs a very, very, very large similar educational platform. Dan, why don't you just tease just a little bit about a couple of the data triggers and market things that you kind of came up with this platform?
Yeah, so really we wanted to provide some actionable insights for you. I think that investing in the crypto markets alone, as maybe a little bit inexperienced since it's so new, can be difficult and a little bit overwhelming. And I think that a lot of the material out there isn't presented in a way that's easily consumable or understandable, right? So information is everywhere, right? But it seems like there's a new crypto expert, every corner that you turn around, and YouTuber, and a lot of the data or information can be, conflicting or misleading, and a lot of it can be difficult to understand. So I think what we really want to do is try to break down what's important out there, what news stories can have a meaningful impact on your investments, and try to help you and not just tell you what to do, right? Because anybody can tell somebody what to do, but we want to really educate you and empower you to make your investment decisions and just to give you an edge, right? And whether that's telling you about some news or telling you about some technical analysis or some on-chain analytics, but not just telling you what it is, but really trying to help you to understand why it has relevance and then how you can draw some of these things on your own, right? I mean, we want you to be able to draw some of the technical charts and be able to analyze and recognize some of these different patterns out there, but not just telling you which projects could be good or where we think price could go, but also how you can earn passive income. And one of the things that I found out, in the beginning of the crypto markets the hard way is that, a lot of the news breaks on Twitter and it could be at all hours. And, all of us, listen, this isn't our full-time job, right? I mean, for you guys listening, right? You're not a full-time day trader. So you have your own job. You don't have time to be scouring the internet and scouring Twitter 24/7 to find out some crazy story, or maybe Elon Musk tweets something and all of a sudden price declines by $5,000. And now you're like, what the heck happened? We're going to cover that for you. We're going to send you alerts. We're not going to be spamming your phones, but if there is a meaningful technical breakdown or a meaningful announcement out there, you can count on a text from us, somebody that you can trust, that'll let you know what's happening so you can position yourself and protect yourself or take advantage of an opportunity out there. So it's a project that we've all put a lot of love into, but I think that we're really excited about it, and I hope you guys see a ton of value in it as well.
Absolutely. And we'll be right back at you guys coming this Wednesday. Remember to follow us on our Instagram channel at CryptoCharge. Watch out for key updates and watch out for that full platform and project launch. And until next time, let's keep supercharging your guys' crypto portfolios.